Foundations of Morality 1, Author, Jana. Chapter 7. Modesty. An ethical person must be a modest one, not arrogant. Modesty means thinking of oneself as not being quite good enough. Arrogance means thinking oneself as being talented enough. From the thinking of being not quite good enough, a modest person will have a very valuable emotion, which is the respect for others. On the other hand, the arrogant person always thinks of themselves as being good enough, and a negative emotion will appear, which is to despise others. By respecting people, the modest person will have words, actions, and facial expressions that please everyone. In contrast, the arrogant person, in spite of trying to restrain themselves, eventually shows their contempt for others and hatred of many, but not wanting hatred from people. The brain of an arrogant person cannot suffer its own arrogance. Thoughts of praising himself, and inwardly despising others, affects the nerve in an adverse way. Many of the brain's functions will eventually disappear. An important function of the brain is to constrain the free thoughts which make us distressed. But high self-esteem will ruin this function, causing the brain to fall into unstoppable stress, headaches, bad memory, and less concentration, and the whole body will be exhausted. Another important function of the brain is to constrain bad desires and make people to live a dignified life. But arrogance has ruined this function, so that this person will be dominated by bad desires. This person suddenly desires more sex and has other cravings that surpass the limits of nature and social law. Once he has succumbed to the sin of sexual desire, his honor is lost. Another important function of the brain is the ability to learn and develop talent. But if an arrogant concept has killed this function, then this person becomes talentless. The concept of praising oneself and despising others has a lot of bad consequences for the brain. In addition, mental arrogance also causes bad luck. The arrogant one often falls into failure. Despite many efforts, everything will go wrong. On the other hand, a modest psychology raises the brain to new heights. The modest person will be more intelligent, will constrain a bad temper, and will have a peaceful mind. For the modest person, it will be easy to get success because of the law of karma. The modest person can also have a charming face too. He who has an arrogant psyche will be hard to change. He will keep his opinions, criticize everything, make everyone feel unpleasant, and ruin his own brain. Only if he realizes the danger of arrogance, and decides to change, can he struggle to repair his defects. He should kneel down in front of any saint or god of his understanding, confess his mistakes, promise to leave his arrogance, and ask for support from his saints or gods. He will promise to respect people and promise to recognize himself as not being good enough. He will do this every day, but in daily life, facing people, he could forget and let the arrogance appear again. It can be very difficult. It is very hard to change the psyche from arrogance to modesty. But we must change if we do not want to live in our personal hell. Once change has occurred, modesty exists, and we recognize ourselves as not being good enough. Then the first reward will come to us, which is that our heart is peaceful than before. Many good things then gradually come one by one. Chapter 8. Rebirth. The phenomenon of rebirth is very interesting. Science now does not have enough information to confirm rebirth, but there is much evidence around the world which proves that rebirth is real. A boy in the Golan Heights, in Syria, remembered his own previous life. He then denounced his killer who had killed the boy with an axe in the previous life. He died, was reborn into this life, but remembered and told his story. The boy pointed out the place where the killer had buried him. He also pointed out the killer, and the killer pleaded guilty. Since not all people can remember their own previous life, the issue becomes controversial. Not everyone has traveled by plane. But we cannot deny that air travel exists just because we have never flown in one. Because many others really have traveled by plane already. We must not judge everything from our own point of view. We cannot remember our previous lives because we have our own karma, our own reasons. We should not deny the rebirth phenomenon because we don't remember it. The rebirth phenomenon will make our view of ethics more solid. The world must accept rebirth to upgrade their morality. Sakya Muni has said very much about rebirth. Jesus has done the same. The Indian gurus also believe in rebirth. Much evidence around the world is proving the fact of rebirth. Only the physical sciences are now at a level that does not have enough information to know about rebirth. Because rebirth is very real, we can have good reason to affirm our trust in the fairness of the universe. Every single person was born with many differences from others in many aspects. They differ from each other with their looks, beautiful or ugly, strength, might or weak, mind, wise or foolish, family, rich or poor. We could say that it is only accidental just because we do not know how to explain it. We could say that it is the will of some God, because we offend that God. But which God could mischievously tease human fate like that? Even if we think that it is inherited genes, we cannot also explain how strange the differences between the members of a family are, after excluding other explanations. There will be only one explanation left which is very logical, and that is the law of cause and effect, the law of karma. The person in this life is the result of the person in a previous life. Lots of thoughts and actions from previous lives have made lots of conditions in this life. Man reaps what he has sowed. Karma is fair. This fairness of karma is not a belief or a religion. This law of karma is science, the science of the universe which our knowledge is not yet able to comprehend. He who understands the law of karma will be an advanced person that can promote the world as well. Our world needs many people who understand the law of karma to get a new level of ethics. The people in high ranks such as leaders, intellectuals, priests, and even the low ranks such as criminals in prisons, all need to understand the law of karma to change the world's morality for the better. The slower we understand the law of karma, the less advances we will make for our world. Finally, according to the law of karma, he who tries to popularize the law of karma will gain great sacred benefits. Chapter 9. Ungreedy. Ungreed is an important factor of morality. Greed is to want too much for oneself. The first want is for material possessions and money. Greed for money is the basic greed. Money represents all other possessions, so that greed for money is greed for everything else. Greed is a basic instinct created by self-ego. Everyone naturally likes to have many possessions. Everyone feels that the more possessions he has, the more happiness he gains. Some people find no need to shop or buy anything, and money and gold are kept in a safe, which is enough to make them very glad. Some people protect such gladness by living a miserable life rather than spend any penny from the safe. For such extremely miserly people, eating delicious food is not as happy as a safe full of money. In order to have a lot of money, sometimes people do bad or cruel things. They defraud, rob, kill, exploit, kidnap, torture, cheat, make forgeries, lie, oppress, bully, are all deplorable. Money will eventually all be spent, but the sins are not exhausted but wait for the law of karma to bring the painful consequences of justice. With a greedy heart, that person harms the people around him, and harm his own mind. The mind of the greedy person is stressed. If his past blessing, good karma from previous life, still exists, he can take what he wants. He also feels glad and satisfied. But this gladness and satisfaction make him more agitated again. His ethics and his good karma are decreasing day by day. He who is looking for virtue must eliminate this greedy heart. Greed and morals cannot share the same place. In order to eliminate greed, we have to live a very kind life by helping people, sharing with others, helping the at first, we share because we believe in karma poor, which will bring good luck back to our life. It is a variation of greed too, but not as bad. Give first and you will have later. After a while of having moral growth, we will share just because we love, not caring any more about the good luck from karma. We kneel in front of the saints we deify, and we pray for their blessings to help us to eliminate our greed. In fact, with the blessing of saint or God, we will find it easier to eliminate greed. Because the greed is a kind of instinct that is very hard to change, we also compliment the people who themselves demonstrated a good example of nobleness. It is the law of karma, we ourselves will attain that we compliment. That kid gave back the wallet to the owner. That man offered his land for building a new road. This woman shared a lot of possession with charity. Find and praise such real examples, and then our hearts will be better. Finally, we have to practice meditation to eliminate the greed hidden in the depths of our mind. With deep meditation, the greed will be erased entirely. Everyone must eliminate greed to stop committing new sins, especially the people who have more opportunities than others. Bankers, powerful people, talented people, confidential document holders, are the people who have many opportunities to get illegal money. Such people have to pay more attention to improve their morality to avoid greed in their hearts. Upon death all possessions will be left behind, only bad or good karma will follow us forever. Greed is not stable, only ethics creates happiness. Chapter 10. Realize one's own mistakes. It is very wise and courageous to realize one's own mistakes. Normally, we find it difficult to realize our own mistakes, although we can see others quickly. Even if other people have not made mistakes yet, we can see them in advance, faster than the speed of light. But we cannot see our own mistakes although we have made them already. Perhaps the instinct of protecting ourselves, loving ourselves, and praising ourselves has hindered from finding out our own mistakes. Even a robber-killer with enough evidence also thinks himself innocent. A person in a movie film confided to his cellmate that he was innocent. The cellmate, with a little bit sympathy, and a little bit irony, said that everyone there was innocent. It means that, if we ask each prisoner, no one feels guilty. An ethical person will behave in the opposite way, and try to find his or her own faults. In spite of the instinct to defend themselves, an ethical person keeps condemning themselves. Even when the fault belongs to others, an ethical person also tries to find himself partly responsible. A fight happened between two friends, we blame ourselves for not discovering their conflict sooner and preventing it. Rubbish is spread all over the street, we also blame ourselves for not having told everyone the need for protecting the environment. It is very brave to admit our faults. Everyone wants to be nice among other people. No one wants to be openly guilty. He who can admit guilt is really brave and strong. A coward always tries to implicate his faults to others, and lets others be dishonored. According to the law of karma, he who has realized his own sins will not be accused by the divine anymore. According to the law of society, he who quickly admits his own sins will have his sentence mitigated. Living a life of self-improving, only a person who can realize his own mistakes can correct them well. Thus, he who sees his own mistakes will have chances to correct the mistakes, and have chances to improve his own morality. He who realizes his mistakes will easily become modest. How can we be arrogant when admitting mistakes? But he who keeps being arrogant will be punished by karma. Karma will secretly urge him to make sins, so he will be shameful and arrogant no more. An arrogant person will make sins until the arrogance ends. Arrogance makes a person sin. Sin brings misery. So, arrogance brings misery, modesty protects people from sin. If there is no sin, there is no misery. So, modesty produces no suffering. He who knows his own mistakes will be humble. Humility makes no sin. No sin, no misery. So, realizing one's own mistakes causes no misery. Another great benefit of realizing mistakes is that he who can realize his own mistakes will have many experiences to teach morality for others. This world is craving morality. Man is not moral enough. Sin and suffering have never diminished in this life. Kindness is only a minority in some places. Most people keep treating others very badly. The need for teaching morality is enormous. Many nations and many religions also worry about teaching morality for their people, but the results are not very optimistic so far. We are short on ethics teachers who have enough inner strength to teach morality. Two factors are needed to teach knowledge to others. These are solid knowledge and ability to communicate. But three factors are needed to teach morality. These are knowledge, communication skill, and an exemplary moral life, but the answer lies with people who can see their own mistakes. Chapter 11. Empathy. Empathy means to put oneself into another's position to understand their misery, their craving, and even their mistakes. Normally, when we see a sick person, we often express some emotions by words or action, and caring a bit. But we cannot understand how sick that patient is. We just look at his wrinkled and suffered face, and understand that he is in pain. We cannot ourselves feel all of the pain that is torturing him. Only if we are very smart, have intuition, and put ourselves into his position will we sense most of his pain. We were listening to a wife who was complaining about her husband who would not give up smoking. Her whole family's health was affected, and the quality of the indoor air was affected by smoke. The wife was not in the wrong, but if we put ourselves into the husband's position, we could sense how the addiction tormented him. In addition, many of his plans in his life had failed, and he always felt sad. Or we heard a story of a thief who broke into a house, was discovered, but ran and escaped. We can put ourselves into the thief's position to understand his psyche with greed, recklessness, influence from other bad people, and his life's deadlock. We can also put ourselves into the house owner's position to understand his fright and outrage when being robbed. We can, when we put ourselves into others' position, understand them more. Sometimes we will sympathize more, sometimes we will be more severe. Sympathizing means what we first perceived was not completely true, and his sins were not so evil, but we can also find out that a pitiful person is actually cruel and despicable. We must cultivate empathy to live this life. Life always has two sides, the outside differs from the inside, words differ from thoughts, actions differ from intent. We must look deeply into people's hearts to make our own attitude more accurate. We should not blame hastily when someone makes mistakes. We should not praise hastily when someone does good deeds. We need to understand their real nature. When in pain, when floundering, when making mistakes, everyone needs someone to lean on. Even when they make mistakes, they also need someone who will not hate them. A monk who was dissatisfied with his brethren has set out to lead a secular life. But another fraternity came and gave him love and trust, so the monk stood up to keep his religious life again. In order to be able to sympathize with others, we need wisdom, intuition, and love. Never hastily accuse anyone, never hastily hate anyone. Many times behind the mistakes, there is another cause. For example, an old man raped a child. Everyone despised him. But we will be calm and watch. Then we will discover that this sin had a source from his youth. At a young age, he offended a saint or a god. After offending the saint or god, a seed of sin appeared in his own heart. According to the law of karma, when the time comes, that seed will turn into action. That man will commit sin like a machine that was programmed. Then all of his honor is lost, and everyone will leave him alone. Another example is of a poor student coming to the deadline of a fee payment without any money. We will understand that there are thousands of thoughts dancing in his head, even thought of suicide. Sympathize, for we cannot ignore him. An ethical person can always empathize with others deeply. Then we will know how to act more positively. Chapter 12. Loyalty. Loyalty is to follow steadily one's own boss with three factors: discipline, emotion, and fate. For example, we follow our commander with the first factor, discipline. It means that we will obey him completely, or we follow that commander with the second factor, emotion. It means that we love the commander very much, or we follow that commander with the third factor, fate. It means that we put our life in his hand no matter how happy or miserable we will be. The ethic of loyalty is a big thing in one's life. Some people have nobody in their life to offer their loyalty to. Actually, if we have someone for us to offer our loyalty, we are more than just happy. Most people have shallow relationships. Or close relationships, sometimes respectful relationships, but finding a relationship to give our loyalty to with all our heart is very rare. The ethic of loyalty only goes with some noble cause. Lower than this is just business relationships or trying to maintain prestige for each other. Businesses need prestige. Friends need sentimental attachment. But only loyalty can reach the peak of an important fate of one's life. That is the relationship of a superior with his junior who together follows a noble ideal in the world. Mostly, when the people who together look after their country, struggle for justice, aim at sublime purpose, protect the earth's environment, they will have the power of ideal. This strength of ideal requires the ethic of loyalty to sustain their team. Loyal people will have a lot of good karma because thief and aggressor wants to destroy a country, they will first induce many people to become traitors. If an aggressor wants to ruin a religion, they also must first followers to become unfaithful. Those who induce many do not have the virtue of loyalty will become saboteurs, and therefore are guilty of grave sins. it will be a beautiful life if we can choose a leader, a master, an organization, and a country to offer our loyalty. But that decisive loyalty requires a great inner strength. A mediocre person cannot offer his or her loyalty to anyone have done great good. That will help their organization be stable.
The Moral Foundation offers a clear, practical guide to understanding and cultivating morality. It explores core principles, trends, and levels of ethics, providing simple, actionable methods to apply in daily life. Thank you for your listening.